Okay, now in this section, what I want to do is I want to talk to you a little bit about what happens underneath the tent at Sturgis. So I want you to imagine you coming in, and the first thing you're going to do before you get under the tent is you're probably going to come by the booth along the street just to kind of see where you're going to be. So I encourage you to go by and take a look and see what's going on first. You're going to see a tent out there, and it's going to be open. And one thing that's going to be very prominent, of course, is there's going to be a brand new Harley-Davidson motorcycle that we are giving away. And every year it's a different bike, but it's going to be a bike that when people come by, they see it, it's going to catch their attention. And then you're going to see usually 4 people out in front of the tent. They're off the sidewalk, by the way. We'll tell you this when you come in. You can't get on the sidewalk, but you're going to see 4 guys or gals out in front of the tent by the bike, and they're called our catchers. And you're going to see them out there, and they're going to be trying to get people to come in under the tent. As you look under the tent, then you're going to see people in there just waiting. You're going to see some people talking with people who've come in. You're going to see some of our witnessers waiting, looking at the catchers, just hoping and praying that the next person come in they get to talk to. And you'll see the catchers bringing someone in and handing them off to someone who's going to witness to them. And then you'll also see that when the person's done witnessing, they'll be going back to a counter, and it will be behind. And there'll be some of us behind the counter there, and you'll register the person, and you'll get to see that. So before you even come to work at the tent, I would just encourage you to go around, take a look, see where we're at, see what's going on. Now, when your shift is coming due, we ask that you will be at the back of the tent. You see, we're on the front street, but there's an alley in the back, and we have another tent set back up there for you. It's got water in it, it's got supplies in it, it's got chairs where you can rest, and it's also a place where we train. And so a half hour before your shift arrives, you'll come in there, and we will talk to you again, kind of refresh you on some of the things you should do, some of the things that you shouldn't do. But I'm going to give you some of that very training right now so you know what to expect. So your shift, let's say it's 1 o'clock. So at 12:30, you are now at the back tent. You're around with all your people, and they're talking, and you're excited to get out there and witness to people. And we come along, and we do a little training, and we pray for you. And then you're ready to go, and you get out there and do it. Well, there's some things that you need to know. First of all, you see I have a blue band on. This blue band is something that we give to you once you've registered and you have a number. We'll talk more about that number in a little bit. But let me take this time to encourage you that when the registration process opens on the internet, I would encourage you in your group, if you're coming with a group or if you're coming as an individual, make sure you go online and register before you come. It really helps us, because if you just show up, then we have to register you right there, and it just takes a little more time. So if you're coming to Sturgis, register ahead of time, and they will assign you a number. And once you're registered and your number is assigned, and we ask you, do you know what your number is? And you tell us and you know what it is, then we give you one of these blue bands. You put the blue band on. Now what this blue band does is this blue band lets us know that you're working with us, that you're one of the witnesses, and that you're ready to talk to someone. So when you're sitting in the tent and you've got the catchers out front and you see them bringing someone in, sometimes the tent gets crowded, and so if you stick your hand up and they see that blue band, they know that you're a witness and that you are ready to talk to someone. And so when they make eye contact with you, then you walk up to them and they'll bring that person to you, and then you then can talk to that person. All right, and we'll talk more about that in another section about what you say to the person then. But let me show you some things that you're going to have in the booth. These right here are little souvenir tokens, I don't know if you can see it real well on the camera or not, but these are souvenir tokens, and the catchers will stand up front, and they'll hold these out to people, and when people see them, they take it, they take the souvenir, and then the catcher is able to tell them what we're doing. By the way, you will have a blue band on, but if somewhere along the line you become a catcher, the guys that stand out front, we're going to put an orange band on you. And there's a different training for that. But the catchers use these tokens, and people enjoy taking them. And on here it has the website, so that if they're interested later and they see it, they can go to the Sturgis Bike Giveaway.com website, and they can see what we're doing. But anyway, we hand these out, and then the catcher will bring them in, and after you talk with them and you come up to the counter, there is a registration card. Now I want to talk a little bit about this registration card. Now notice, on the back of the registration card, it is black. It's a black card. Now we also have some orange cards. These orange cards are orange on both sides. Now, if we get a good crew, a big crew, and sometimes we'll send people out on the streets with this card, and it says, "Win a Harley." And you just walk up and down the streets with these cards, and you see someone, and you could just pass these cards out to them, and or you can say, "Hey, they're giving away a Harley over there, go register," and you can point to where the booth is. We have a lot of people who come to the booth, and they have these cards in their hands. Someone has been out on the street, given them a card, and so they're looking for us. They're coming in because they want to register to win this Harley. These orange cards can go out on the street. You can pass them out, give them to anybody that you want. It's awesome. Best story I heard, a guy came in. He was in southern Missouri when he met someone with one of these cards, and he told them he was headed to Sturgis. They pulled this card out and said, "You need to go because there's a group there that give away a bike every year." And so he came in and said, "Yeah, I got this from a guy in southern Missouri, and I came to register for this bike." So we let these go out all over the place. But the ones with the black face, these are our registration cards. They stay on the desk, all right? They're there. We don't let them go out of the tent, and when you come up with somebody, after you've talked with them, you come up and you will use this card to register them. So you've talked with the person, and so you're bringing them to the desk. You come up to the desk and you grab one of these cards. We have piles of them there. You put it in front of them and give them a pen, and you stay with them, okay? You just stay with them. You're going to stay with them the entire registration process. And what you do is you tell them, we're giving this bike away on, and this time it happens to be Saturday at noon, but you'll know whatever the time is that we're going to give that away. You just say, you remind them that we're going to give that bike away, and then you remind them that we need to be able to read the card. And so tell them to print very legibly. And so they'll put their name, address, city, state, zip, phone number, email. There also is an age thing there, and we kid around with the ladies and say, we really don't need your age. Get as much information as you can, all right? And when they're done, a lot of times if I'm standing behind the counter, they just want to hand it to me, and I say to them, no, give it to the person who talked to you, and see, when they give it back to you, then I want you to be very careful and make sure you can read that name. Make sure you can read that information, especially the telephone number, because you see, when we draw for the bike, we want to call them immediately to let them know. So a lot of times what I say is, give me the telephone number of where you can be reached when we draw this bike. So they're very careful about that. Now there is another thing here, and there's a box, and it says, I prayed and committed my life to Christ today. Well, a lot of people come in and they check that box because sometime in the past they have prayed to receive Christ, or they don't know, they just check it. If they prayed to receive Christ with you right then you want to make sure it's checked. But if they check it and they did not pray with you that day, then when you say goodbye to them, shake their hand, and they head out, you turn back to the counter and you just mark that off and write no right next to it. So that way, when you hand the card to one of us behind the desk, when we see that, we know that they did not pray today to receive Christ. But if you do have the opportunity to lead someone to Christ, and they prayed with you today, then you want to make sure that that box is marked, and then I tell people, go ahead and write a big yes out there, so when I see that card, I know beyond any shadow of a doubt that that is a yes. Now, if I'm up working behind the counter, or if Morgan's working behind the counter, or someone else is there, every once in a while a card will get turned in, and then the witnesser will turn back around because he's looking for someone else to talk to, and they'll feel something hit their back. I've thrown my pen at them, or I've thrown a piece of candy at them to get their attention because I have a question. So don't be offended when we throw a piece of candy at you. Just pick it up and come back and know that we have a question, and we'll ask you about it. Now, this past, it was just yesterday, we had a card come in, and we had a person who had checked that they had received Christ, and there was a yes by it, but we could not read their name, we could not read their address, we couldn't even read their telephone number, and it just broke my heart because now we have no way to do follow-up with that person. As a matter of fact, if their card is drawn, we're going to have a real hard time even trying to call them to tell them that they won the bike. So what happened is the person who was talking with them didn't take enough time to make sure that they could read it. And if you can't read it, you ask them the question and then write that information in so that we can read it. So that's a little bit about the card. And it's very important also that when you're done, the number that you're assigned that gives you the blue band, somewhere on this card you are going to write your number. Every card you turn in, you will write your number. Now, one of the best things about this is you lead someone to Christ, the box is checked, you write yes out there, you have your number on there, you make sure you can read it, you turn it in, and within a couple of days in your email box, you will have their name and their address, their telephone number, and so you can do some follow-up. Maybe you'd like to send them an email, or maybe you send them a letter, just encouraging them, thanking them for accepting Christ, congratulating them on that, maybe encouraging them to get involved in a local church. But this card is very important. So this is when you're done witnessing to them and it's time to register, we want to make sure that we do an excellent job on this card. Okay, so you're under the tent and you're witnessing and you're registering people, but we also have some things there at the counter that can help you in your process of ministering to these people. One of the things that we have always there is the Gospel of John. And this one here is it says Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, and it has a little picture of a motorcycle. Now this one has 2011 printed on it. And of course right now at the time of this taping, it's 2012, so I just kind of joke around with people and I say, yeah, the outside is a little dated, but the inside is eternal. And so we want to get the Gospel of John into their hands, and so before they leave, if they're willing to take it, give them the Gospel of John. And in this, you might want to familiarize yourself with the book, but in the beginning of this book, they have the plan of salvation listed out right in the beginning. So when people first start reading the first 3 or 4 pages, it talks about the plan of salvation, and then it comes in to the Gospel of John. So we want to give this to people when they leave, whether they accept Christ or not. We want to give this to them. Now we also have under the tent some tracts. Now I want to just say this. You may have your favorite tract that you like to use. please don't bring those. Now, if you want to do some witnessing out on the streets at other times, you can use those. But when you're under the tent, when you're standing there, when you're witnessing to people, and when you're giving them things, we have specific things that we pass out. We have other Christian groups come in with tracts, and they want us to use those too. And we just can't do that. We need to know for sure what we are handing out. And this is just one of the tracts that sometimes we have. We'll have some things there. And if you feel led to, you can give this to them and tell them that this will help remind them of what they've done. Or if they accept Christ, this will help remind them of what they've done. Or you can say to them, if you think they didn't accept Christ, but you can tell them that if they want to think more about it, if they go through this tract, then they'll be able to hear again what you were telling them. So there's a tract. Now, this is one thing that we have that I really, really like. It is a playing card. All right. Now, they're all the same. It's not like there's a whole deck. They're all King of Diamonds. And on the front, it says Sturgis Bike Rally. And it has a motorcycle there. But embedded around it, you'll see like the SturgisBikeGiveaway.com. There's a telephone number, 1-888-JESUS-2000, where they can call and talk to someone about their relationship with Jesus Christ. Or they have another one on there, whatsnext.com. And so if they've accepted Christ, you can tell them they can go to that website and find information. But there is information there. But on the back, we have the ABCs of salvation. On the top, the agree. And then we have the B, which is believe. And then the C, which is choose. And there's some sentences written out there. In the middle of it, you'll see a prayer. And that prayer can be, you could use that when you're praying with them, or they can keep this card and kind of remember what they've prayed about. But this is a nice tool that you can use. You can use it while you're witnessing, and we'll train you how to do that. Or you can just give them this card before they leave. You can just kind of tuck it in the Bible there. But you can give them this card, and when they leave, just pray that God would bring that back to their remembrance, and that they would look at it and they would remind themselves of what we were telling them under the tent. So there's some tools. Now when you come, there may be some other things. We're constantly getting different things, but all of those tools for you will be on the counter, and then if they're on the counter, then you can give them to them so that when they leave the rally, they have something to remind them of where they've been, and also something to help them in their relationship with Christ. So those tools will be there on the counter.